Okay, so today we will learn about how we can create a new Mule application in Mule 4. So first of all, we are in Anypoint Studio, which we have downloaded in the last video, which is the integrated development platform for Mule applications. So we will go to the file menu and let me just give you the overview of this Anypoint Studio first of all. So this is our package explorer, which will be showing the list of projects which we have. This is the Mule properties palette. What we will do is whenever a Mule component is dragged to our application, then we have to set some properties. Those properties will come here. This is the problems window where you can see all the errors or the compile time errors in the Mule application. There is a console window where you can actually get the messages whatever is happening to your application once you deploy something to the Mule enterprise platform. So let's start with the very first. So go to the file and create new Mule project. You can type any name, so I will type my first Mule application, something like that. You can type any name here. There's a runtime selected here, which is by default inbuilt runtime with Anypoint Studio, which can be used to deploy the applications locally. But wherein if you would like to deploy this application onto a particular server, then also you have to select the runtime just to check whether there are any error at the compile time of the application and for the testing application. So this inbuilt runtime Mule server is not recommended for the production servers, but yes, it is very much useful for the development purpose. Our application is being created to this path. You can change this path by unclick this and then select a particular location. For the sake of this tutorial, for the sake of this video, we will continue with this path. We'll click on finish and it will set our build path and continue everything. It will create a project into our folder. Let us go through the project. So there is a src main Mule which will contain all the flows. So each API in the Mule application is known as flow. So it will contain this XML file will contain all the flows for us. Then there is a src main Java folder which will contain all the Java classes if we are creating any Java class in the application. There is a resources folder under main which will carry the log4j configurations. It may have any other configurations also, like the properties of database and other things. So you may keep all the resources here in the separate folder just to make sure that every component is available separately. So the configuration files will be available in resources folder while the code will reside in Mule folder in the Mule application. Then there is a test Java folder which will contain all the test classes for Java. There is a test munit folder which will contain the munit test cases for Mule application. If you would like to store any configuration in the test profile, then you can use src test resources folder here. There is a http folder inbuilt which will contain all the jar files which are required to start a Mule application, even if you are printing the hello world only. Then there is a Jre System Library. Since Mule applications or Mule platform is built over the Java technologies, so it will always there is a requirement of Java and it will always have the Jre System Library available with it. So we are using Java 1.8 here since we are using Mule 4 and Mule 4 supports Java 8 or later. Then there's a Mule server, as we have already created a project in Mule runtime environment which is 4.1.4 right now. There's a sockets folder which contains all the libraries of the socket which are useful to containerize of a Mule application. The src folder is the same as I have explained in the above. There is a target folder which will keep all the compiled code of this Mule application. Then there is a Mule artifact.json which where you can actually see which runtime you are using, or you can also change the runtime here as well. Then there is a pom.xml, since Mule applications basically based on Maven build. So that is why there is a pom.xml file here which contains all the dependencies and required MuleSoft libraries information. So let's get started and print a hello world using this Mule application. So what we will do is we will create a flow. So first of all, since every flow or every APIs need a input listener to it, so for this particular application we will use HTTP listener. So we will search in the Mule palette. You can see all the components available in a Mule application. You can drag them and drop into the canvas. This we call it as a canvas of Mule application. So we will drag the HTTP listener and drop it here. As we drop it here, it will create a Mule flow for us. This is our first flow. So we will set up the properties of this Mule listener, which is the HTTP listener. We will have to provide some properties. There are many properties here, but there are some properties which are required. As you can see, there are two issues found because we did not provide the connector configuration and the path to this particular listener. So let's create a new configuration since we do not create any configuration so far. So click on this green plus button or the icon. As you can see, it is listening at HTTP protocol, which is the default protocol. We are not using HTTPS right now because we do not have the SSL certification for this particular video. You can have any port. Right now we will leave it to 8081. This is the default port for any Mule application when you create it. There is a host configuration which says 0.0.0, which is the IP of our own system. You can also have the local host here, but then it will not listen to your IPs. So this is the basic configuration which is really required to understand this, to create this hello world application. Then in the base path we will type slash, which says that all the required information or all the APIs have to carry out this IP. This is the localhost colon 8081 and then slash. This will be our base path of this application. Click on OK. So we have already configured this connector configuration here. Then in the path we will type like hello world or maybe hello, and we will save this by pressing Ctrl S. So it will save all the information. As you can see, there is no error here, no error here, and in the problems window also there is no error right now. So this is the listener only. We did not set the output response to the request which this listener will listen in the next minute. So what we will do is we will drag a set payload component. So set payload component is available to set up the response parameter to any API request. Here we will type in the hello world because we would like to print this message on the browser window when we are going to access this API. So this API will have a path of in the listener configuration. It will have a path of localhost colon 8081 slash, and after slash it will have hello. So if we type this path, then it will print the hello world as the output. This is what we would like to achieve in our Mule first application. So let's do a deployment of this application right now. We will go to the Mule, run as Mule application, and it will show you all the progress in the console window. It will take few seconds to load and launch the VM and the Mule server. It will show all the path entries and everything here, and once it is deployed, then it will show you that it has been deployed on the Mule platform. So let's wait for it to deploy. Yeah, so as you can see, my first Mule application, which is the application name here, is deployed in the default domain. So as I mentioned that there is one API here in this application which will give you the output at localhost colon 8081 slash hello. So let's check the same. Go to the browser and type in localhost colon 8081 slash hello. Congrats. So we have created our first application which is printing hello world for us. You can test this API using Postman as well. Thanks for watching this video.